Hi everyone, am I visible and audible? Good evening. How are you guys doing? You got two good holidays, Saturday, Sunday. How was your weekend? Did you revise the entire part of microeconomics? Revision notes is enough. The notes that we are giving it is enough. If there are any other points that you want to write, you can write on them. We are giving you notes in advance as well, right? Volume is bad. Please come in ఒక్కసారి volume అంట చెక్ చేయరా full volume ఉందా లేదా చూడండి. So yeah, rest all good. Is everything good? Right. So we will start now. As usual, we will discuss one current affair topic. So tell me, what is the most interesting thing that happened over the week? What is the most interesting thing that happened over the week? Most interesting current affair thing that happened over the week. What is it? What do you think is very interesting? In exam point of view. In exam point of view, what do you think? Iran, US, Israel war is one thing that is interesting. Yes. But yes, Prachand, President co-piloted LCA light combat helicopter. Prachand, yes. Hi Naman, Radhe Radhe. The war is happening, that's not interesting, but yes, Kerala to Kerala is important, that is also there. Semiconductor lab, very good. So you guys are following current affairs, this is really good. The kind of current affairs that are coming up, especially Kerala, then LCH Prachand, then the semiconductor lab, all these things, these are important. Will there be exams? Yes man, why don't there be exams? Even, I mean, when Operation Sindoor tha, even then there was exam that was there, no? So if there is a war in Iran or Israel, why do you think we would stop our exams? No, that will not happen, don't worry. Your exams will proceed as usual, so you have to study as usual, there is no doubt about it. Is there any other question in that regard? Right, so we will start in today's class as usual. See, every day we are taking up one current affair topic and we are discussing that one current affair topic, after which we will proceed towards our regular economy class that we are doing. We will complete major part of the economy by the end of this week, and next week we will complete whatever is needed based on 2025 PYQs. Now this week, the current affair topic that we are talking today is about the renaming of a state. The state in discussion is Kerala. Kerala has been renamed and the new name that has been given is Keralam. Okay, the name is yet to be finalized, as in Union Cabinet has approved it. The name is Kerala to Keralam. So in exams point of view, if they want to ask any question on this, there are two ways in which they can ask you questions. First way is basically they can ask you from polity. Polity, they can ask you where or how, what is the procedure to change it, that they can ask you. Then they can also ask you, was there any state whose name was changed earlier? If so, what is it? There can be a match the following question also. For example, Odisha, Orissa, there was a name change. Pondicherry, Puducherry, there was a name change. Uttarakhand, there was a name change. So they can ask you match the following type of questions also. They can ask you what is a procedure, and they can also ask you what or where do you see, when was the word Keralam that came into picture, the whole political history or the ancient history part of Kerala. So these are the three areas based on which they can ask you questions. So we will look at each of them and then we will proceed towards our regular class. First thing is obviously, how do you rename a state? So what is the article that talks about renaming the state in India? Article 3. Article 3. Yes, so in India, if you want to rename a state, the article that discusses about is Article 3. What else is written in Article 3? Can you tell me what else is written in Article 3? Article 3 also talks about altering the boundaries of the state, creation of new state, separation of a state, and name change, right? Change of name. So these are the four things that are discussed by Article 3. You can change the boundaries, altering the boundaries of the states. You can create a new state, you can create a separate state, or you can also change the name of the state. Now my question to you is, in 1961, or for that matter, let us say tomorrow, India went on to a war with Pakistan and India liberated Baluchistan. And this time India wanted to merge Baluchistan into India. Can I merge Baluchistan to India under article number 3? Can we acquire new states? Can we acquire new territories under article number 3? Yes or no? Yes or no? No, 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 right. So article 3 talks about all those states that are within the territorial jurisdiction of India. I hope this is clear. They can ask you questions on this. Now what is the procedure? So procedure is very simple. First is a state legislature will send a proposal. Here the question in case Kerala state government, state cabinet or state legislature will send a proposal. Proposal saying that please change our name from Kerala to Kerala. They will send a procedure. Then it goes to parliament. To introduce this in the parliament, you need presidential recommendation. This is important. They can ask you under article number 3 if you want to alter a state boundary or if you want to alter anything, then president's recommendation is mandatory. There is no doubt about it. President has to approve. Can someone tell me why is this? Can you tell me why presidential recommendation is mandatory if you want to alter the states with respect to article 3? Why? Why do you think is it? I'm waiting for your response. Yes, this is useful for RRB and TPC also. There is no doubt about it. Head of the state. Yes, president is indeed the head of the state. But why article 3? Why article 3? No, first citizen of India is fine. See, president being the head of the state doesn't mean we are not asking her permission or his permission for every type of bill, right? Under every article, you don't need prior approval of president. But why under article 3 do you need president's prior approval? Those who gives the correct answer in the first place, because within the boundary of India, it's still not no. Supreme authority is not no. Okay, I'll give you the answer. Okay, okay, fine. See, you tell me under article number 3, can a state decide whether the change can happen or not, or is it unilateral? Is it the final decision of the parliament, or can a state decide that okay, parliament wants to do it, but we want to say no? So if a state says no, will it be agreed? No. Your answer is not right. I'm giving you the reason. Think of it and tell me. Let's say when Telangana state was separated, Andhra government or Andhra state was not ready for it. Andhra assembly said no for it. But did it stop? It did not stop, right? Which means to change the state, you are giving the entire power in the hands of parliament. But you have to protect the state interest also. So you need someone who can act as a welfare, who can act as on behalf of the state to ensure that state's interests are protected. Yes, state should have a say in this, but state doesn't have a say in article number 3. So the trust is that President of India will act as a guardian of the state. So you must take the prior approval of the president before introducing a bill. So after you take it, then the bill goes to the legislature. Legislature will express its views. Views are not mandatory. It just tells okay, yes, no, there. Yes, exactly. Because state cannot resist fully, president is believed to be the guardian of the state. So once a bill is approved by the president, it goes to state legislature. State will give advices. Advices are not mandatory. Okay, after state advice is done, then the matter comes to the parliament. Parliament approves it. Parliament passes it. President signs. Finally, the name is changed. So this is the procedure. They can ask you questions on article 3. They can ask you. They can also ask you in assertion and reasoning questions. They can ask you why president has to approve, why prior presidential recommendation is needed. They can frame an assertion reasoning question. Assertion would say, Under article number 3, to change the name of a state, president prior approval is mandatory to introduce a bill or to send the bill to state legislature. Reason, president of India is the first citizen of India. Now you tell me what is correct. I gave you two statements. My statement number 1, I am writing options here. Assertion is right, reason is right, assertion explains reasoning. Assertion is right, reason is right, assertion does not explain reasoning. Assertion is right, reason is wrong. Assertion is wrong, reason is right. My statements are assertion to change the name of a state under article number 3 to introduce the bill prior approval of president is mandatory. My reason, president is the first citizen of India. What is right? Answer choice B, perfect. Right? So this is the reason you need to know why for everything when you are studying polity. When you study polity, you make sure you know why of everything. Okay. So this is about current affairs part, and the other thing that they can ask you, by the way, this is a small revision table that is there. Now, the other thing is they can ask you match the following questions on what happened in the past. In India in the past, there are 3 major instances where states' reigns are changed. One is Orissa to Odisha, Uttaranchal to Uttarakhand, Puducherry to Pondicherry to Puducherry. This table, they can ask a match the following question, or they can also frame a static GK question on this table. This is absolutely possible. This kind of a question is possible. Now, in historical perspective, there is only one interesting thing that I want to tell you. See, basically the region that we are looking at, for those who don't know where Kerala is, the region that we are looking at is in the southern part of the country, southernmost part of the country. This is the region that we are talking about. Okay, not just modern day Kerala. I am talking about the ancient region, ancient period. That is a region that we are talking about. And this region was ruled by the kings of Cheras. There is one Ashokan rock edict. There is a major rock edict number 2 of Ashoka. This edict talks about Kerala. Kerala, which it mentions as Kerala Putras, or it talks this region as Cheram region. Over a period of time, by the time of Sangam literature, Sangam period, etc., the new word Keralam came up. So if you have seen Shashi Tharoor's recent interview on the change, a whole story, he says it was only in the 11th century when these kind of names, etc., came up. Yes, Kerala Putras. So these are the questions that they can ask you from the topic of Kerala's name change. This is completed. Now only for today, I have one more thing that I wanted to discuss in current affairs. This is also important. So I felt, why should I miss it? Now my question to you is, what are you aware about the conflict that is going on? What are you aware of the conflict that is going on around? There is a conflict that is going on around, there is no doubt about it. Right? There is Iran, there is, who are the players? Who are the players? Sound should be good. USA, there is Israel, there is Iran, right? So basically the entire war is going on in a region. This is the region where the war is going on. This is the region where the war is going on, and this is Iran, then this is UAE, you have Kuwait, Bahrain, everybody in this. So this is called as Persian Gulf region. Map based questions are possible in this topic. This is Persian Gulf. This is Gulf of Oman. If you have seen yesterday's news, there was IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, on a VHF, that is on a radio. They were announcing that no ship is allowed from the Strait of Hormuz. So this was the kind of VHF announcement that they were doing. So for our exams, the location of Strait of Hormuz becomes important. In the exam, they can ask you which 2 water bodies are connected by Strait of Hormuz. What is the Strait of Hormuz? They can also come up with a multi-statement question discussing about the importance of Strait of Hormuz, because in 2025 there are around 5 to 6 questions where they asked about Chabahar port and this is where Chabahar port is located. So they are asking, this region is of interest to your SSC exams. SSC examiner is interested in the region, so you have to understand the geography of the region. Volume is still not good. Just give me 1 minute. Chandu?
7, 8.
Hello, Sanjay Vargo. Volume బాలేదంటే ఒక్కసారి రావా, చాలా మంది చెప్తున్నారు. Right, so we are working on the volume, by the way. So Iran says we are closing Strait of Hormuz. Iran says we are closing Strait of Hormuz, right? So this is the region that we are talking about. And why is this region important? This region is pretty important because, see, just a second. You have all these countries, everybody supplies oil, and if you want to send your ships, you have to pass through this point. Now this point is 33 kilometer wide, in which you have just 3 kilometer of shipping lanes. This is the only shipping lane. If you can bombard any ship over there, all these countries whichever supply oil, Qatar, UAE, right, Saudi Arabia, everybody's oil does not come out. Everybody's oil does not come out. Is it sound good now? Okay, clear. So everybody, whoever wants to sell oil from the region, their oil will not come out. What happens if oil doesn't come out? Yes, India's crude, we around 15% of it is dependent upon this route, but it's not just India. Yeah, more than India, you have Russia and China, or more than India, it is China who could be impacted by the blockade of China, of Strait of Hormuz. Iran itself could be blockaded, or Iran itself could also be impacted, right? So in the exam, the simple question that they can ask you is, Strait of Hormuz is between, one, it is Persian Gulf, and the other is Gulf of Oman. This is the question that they can ask you from this. They can ask you a geography based question. Now before I get into today's topic, one last question that I want to talk to you is, what happens when oil shock is there? What is one possible scenario? Yes, someone said, Naman says inflation will increase. Exactly. So today the topic of discussion that we have is inflation. So basically we are going to talk about the whole story of inflation and various other topics. Primarily the chapter that we are talking today, our primary chapter that we are talking today is inflation, and from inflation we will proceed towards monetary policy. We will understand what is inflation, types of inflation, reasons, and the solution lies in monetary policy. These are the areas from which, these are the topics that we are going to discuss, and in exams there are very good number of questions from these topics, especially types of inflation. There are good number of questions, even in even from monetary policy also there are decent number of questions. So basically our theme for this week is banking. Our primary theme of the week is banking. Within banking, first is monetary policy, and to understand monetary policy we need to understand inflation. We need to understand why for the inflation, then we need to understand solutions of monetary policy. This is the first perspective. Second perspective, we have to understand the history of banking. This has very low weightage, so I will simply skim through the topic. There is one more area where they are asking questions on banking reforms. There are a lot of problems that happened in banking. There are reforms, Narsimhan 1, Narsimhan 2, Urjit Patel committee. There are good number of questions from banking reforms. We will study banking reforms in detail. Banking reforms will be for tomorrow. This is our theme for the next 2 days. We will start with inflation. So can someone tell me what is inflation? Yeah, there are chances that price of gold and silver might increase when there is certain uncertainty. Usually people prefer to invest in something that is more reliable, and ideally gold is always reliable, so naturally demand for gold will increase, and as demand for a product increases, prices increase. So the general rise in price level, the general rise of prices continuously, basically for any good or a service, the price keeps on increasing. For example, let us take an example of, let's say, a TV. Last year this was 24,000. After 6 months this became 30,000. 6 months later 35,000. Over a period of time 45,000. So the prices keeps on increasing constantly. the price keeps on increasing constantly, a general rise in the increase in the prices of goods or services, you call such a scenario as inflation. So inflation is a simple scenario where prices of general commodities keeps on increasing, right? So inflation is a constant, this word is key, a sustained or a constant rise of price level. So price keeps on increasing continuously. This is called as inflation. Now my question to you is inflation good for us or bad for us? For an economy, is inflation good or bad? Let's see how many of you will tell the correct answer. For any economy, is inflation good or bad? Okay, Harshvardhan says bad. Jivada Harshini says it is good, bad, okay. Okay, now we will discuss inflation for the next 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I will ask you the same question. Then you think of it and tell me whether inflation is good or bad, and then I will introduce you to an interesting curve as well. Okay, we are divided between good and bad, we will talk about it. So now the question is, inflation is somehow good or bad? The opinion could be divided, but there is an impact of inflation, everybody agrees with it, right? So when there is an impact, shouldn't we measure inflation? We should measure it, right? There is either positive or negative, but we have to measure it, right? Yes, we need to measure it. So how do we measure it? There are two ways. See, all I need to check is price increase. Can I measure this at a wholesale shop? I can measure this at a wholesale shop, right? I can measure it at a wholesale shop. I can also measure it at a retail shop. Let's say at a wholesale shop, 100 kgs of rice is sold. 2 years ago it is 500, 550, 650, 700. I can measure it at a wholesale level, or I can also measure it at a retail level. For example, in Reliance supermarket, 1 kg of rice, 50 rupees, 60, 65, 70, 1 kg of rice. Two ways I can measure them. I can measure them I can measure them at a wholesale level or at a retail level. So if I am measuring it at a retail level, I call it as CPI. At retail level, we have customer or a consumer, right? At retail level, we have consumer, right? So CPI, we call it as Consumer Price Index. CPI measures what we actually pay. What exactly is paid, that is measured by CPI, right? That is Consumer Price Index. And the next level, the level is wholesale level or producer level, mass level. This is called as WPI. Earlier, Reserve Bank of India used to consider, or Indian government used to consider WPI as the standard once upon a time. Long ago, we used to consider wholesale as our standard value, but today we don't consider wholesale, we work on retail, because for us now end consumer is important. So today, if there is a value that is used to measure the inflation, which is called as, for example, let us say there is a newspaper. Newspaper says inflation has increased to 8% in latest quarter. This is a headline of newspaper. This is a headline of newspaper. So the number that is written in the newspaper, in the headline of newspaper, this is CPI. So CPI is also called as headline inflation. You have two ways, CPI, WPI. CPI talks about consumer or a final retailer. So this is used by RBI. This is used by RBI. Now, to measure this, there is always a number called as base year. There is always a number called as base year. Let me explain the meaning of base year. I have to explain a word called as base year. See, for example, let us start from 2020. In 2020, the price of a product is 100 rupees. 2021, the price is 120. 2022, the price is 125. 2023, the price is 135. Now, if I simply ask you, how much did the price of this particular TV increase? If I ask you, how much did the price of this TV increase? How can you tell me? How will you tell me? Will you tell me it is 20 rupees? Will you tell me it is 5 rupees or 10 rupees or 35 rupees? How can you tell me? We need a reference, right? We need a reference to tell, okay, compared to 2020, in 2025, the price increased by 5 years. Or sorry, 35 rupees. Compared to, so you need one base value. The base value which we use for reference is called as base year. And to measure inflation, the base year that we use to measure inflation is 2012. 2012 is the base year. So today, if I say the price of mobile has increased by 25%, the meaning is compared to 2012, today it has increased by right, base year, just a second, did I miss it? Just a minute. Right, thank you so much for, right, okay. In February 2026, I think just very few days ago, when was this year? Okay, on 12th February, that's pretty latest, yes. So the base year has been changed. Yes, base year has been changed. The latest base year was changed in the month of February. I missed out on it. So latest base year is 2024. The latest base year that was there is 2024. Earlier it used to be 2012. Now the latest base year is 2024. So what they usually do is 2024 price, they call it as 100 and they start measuring from 2024. No, it's just a reference here. It's just a reference to compare. Yes, 2024. Earlier it used to be 2012. Now it is 2024. 10 years later they will change it again. This is base year. Now the next thing is GDP deflator. This is a very interesting concept, okay? I'll give you a scenario. Last year a country produced 100 rupees worth things. A country produced 100 rupees worth things. This happened in, let us say, 2024. And in 2025, this country produced 150 rupees worth GDP. This is the example. 2024, a country produced a product worth 100 rupees. 2025, they produced a product worth 150 rupees. Can I say GDP increased by 50 rupees? Can I say GDP increased by 50 rupees? You need a base year only for reference. Now please tell me, can I say GDP of this country increased by 50 rupees? Is it acceptable or not? Yes, no. CGL GS is more than enough for Steno GS. Yes, no. Those who are saying no, yes, nominal GDP increase. So, unfortunately, in this 1 year, what happened in this country is there was inflation, and inflation was 20%, which means out of these 50 rupees, 20 rupees is a fake. 20 rupees is because of inflation. Only 30 is the actual increase. GDP deflator talks about how much of the GDP is because of inflation. This definition is important. GDP deflator explains how much of it is real. For example, let us say this is last year production, and in this country there was inflation. So this is inflation. Then over a period of time this country produced some GDP. Now GDP deflator says only this is real. Only this is real. All this is because of inflation. So GDP adjusted to inflation, this is called as GDP deflator. See, deflating is nothing but removing air from a balloon. So country thought this is their big sized balloon. But what happened was very simple. There was inflation because of which half of the air was removed. So this is called as deflation. Deflation is very simple. Here you are removing air out of something. You are simply removing air out of it. So out of the GDP balloon, You remove air, which is because of inflation, your real GDP comes in. This is nominal and real GDPs and all those things, right? So now this is about GDP deflator and inflation. GDP deflator talks about what is the increase in GDP because of price change. What changed because of price change? And there are certain key features. It talks about everything, etc., etc. This is still okay. Now, what are we talking about? Achha, before going to the types of inflation, cost push built in, just a minute. I'll talk about this first. Now you tell me, in India we are measuring inflation. Let us say we are measuring inflation and 2024 versus 2025. When I am measuring it, on an average prices, let's say it was 100, it became 120. But in 2026, because of war, etc., this becomes 165. This is basically inflation measurement, right? You are measuring the increase in the change of it, right? You are measuring the increase in the change. This is inflation. Now you tell me, out of all those things that you know, tell me any two things that are completely unreliable that you should not measure to understand the dynamics, which are more dependent upon external factors, natural factors, which are really not in our hand kind of a thing. What are those things? Tell me anything which is not really in our hand, but the prices increase like anything. Gold, okay, anything else? More volatile, think of it. Food grains, one very good. Petroleum, very good. So basically in India there are two things. One is food, the other is fuel. Food is dependent upon nature. Fuel is dependent upon Middle East and other countries. Fuel is dependent upon geopolitics. Food is dependent upon nature. So in my country, if I say because of something that is happening in West Asia, fuel prices have increased, and because of fuel prices there is heavy inflation, that does not really indicate what is happening in my country. So for me to understand the reality, I have two types of inflation. First type is core inflation. In core inflation, I am removing food, fuel. The reason is very simple. These two are not in my hand. Food is dependent upon nature, food is not in my hand. Fuel is dependent upon geopolitics, so fuel is not in my hand. So I want to remove those things. I want to remove food and fuel. This is called core inflation. This they will ask you in the exams. And if you add everything, you call it as regular headline inflation, which is CPI, frontline or headline inflation. So this is the difference between core inflation and headline inflation. So coming back to the topic of inflation, think about and tell me, what could be the reasons for increase in the price? Let us take an example of Sony camera. There is Sony camera, or we will take an example of, let us say, instead of Sony camera, we will take example of Insta360. There is Insta360. Tell me, what could be the reasons behind the rise of Insta360 prices? Everything else other than food and fuel comes under core inflation. Namaste group. Okay, one you told, increase of raw material cost. Increase of raw material cost. This is one thing, very good. Anything else? Too much of capital in individual hands, very good. Everybody got December 31st bonus. Every Indian got so much of bonus, and suddenly out of nowhere people wanted to travel. So many influencers started doing videos on Insta360. So there is a rise in demand. So there are various factors that can cause inflation. There could be change in demand. It could be change of cost of raw materials. So various factors can cause change in inflation, right? So for all these things, there are names. The first name that we have is called as demand pull inflation. When demand of Insta360 increases, everybody wanted this camera. Out of nowhere, everybody wanted Insta360. Then demand increases. If demand increases suddenly, supply can't be there, right? Obviously, company has got some estimates. They will think probably every year in India we will sell 10,000 Insta360. But out of nowhere, 1 lakh people wanted. So that is demand pull inflation, which happens because of change in demand. Next thing is, as someone said, all Insta360 chips are manufactured in China, and tomorrow China joined hands with Iran and they went to World War III. In a hypothetical scenario, China joined hands with Iran, Russia joined hands with Iran, there is World War III that is going on. But India wanted to remain neutral. So Indians are still busy to buy Insta360. Indians wanted to buy Insta360, travel to Iran, and they wanted to do vlogging. So in this kind of a scenario, when China is in war, you don't get semiconductors. When China is in war, no chips, no semiconductors, which means production cost will increase. Production cost will increase. This leads to an inflation. This inflation is called as cost push inflation. Can you tell me any one real-time example of cost push inflation that happened? Think of it. I'll give you one hint. This happened after COVID. Can you think and tell me what happened? Missile hits the blogger. That would be viral. Let's say a vlogger is recording and a missile comes and hits that fellow. That would go literally viral. Okay, mask is demand pull, not cost push. Yes, semiconductor chips, very good. Vaccines, semiconductor chips. What happened was, see, earlier, I used to use in Hyundai i20. When I brought my i20, I bought it just for rupees 6 lakhs. But after COVID, the same Hyundai i20, they were selling it for around 10 to 12 lakhs approximately. When we asked why, they said it's very simple, sir. Semiconductors or the chips that they use in the cars, they are supposed to come from China. They are not available. So the raw material cost has increased. We are not able to manufacture it at the earlier cost. So when such kind of things happen, the cost of raw material increases. That you call it as cost push inflation. Classic example is car prices. Masks, oxygen cylinders is demand pull. There was demand for masks, demand for vaccine. Demand was very high, that is demand. But here it is, raw material cost has increased. So this is cost push inflation. Right. Now there is one more type of inflation. Let's say, for example, by the way, once you get into government will give you an allowance. To adjust your salary to inflation, they will give you an allowance. Do you know what it is? After 2026, when every one of you clears CGL, Government of India will give you one allowance to adjust your salary. Yes, DA. DA is also called as dearness allowance. Okay. For example, let us say 2024, your DA was 20%. Inflation was high. In 2025, inflation was very high. So government said, let me increase this DA to 40%. What happens here is, because of inflation was high. So because of inflation, you asked for more salary. Inflation is high, government increase your salary, you have more money in hand, your demand will continue to increase. So it becomes a spiral, right? It becomes a spiral or not? Inflation is high, so you will ask for more salary. More salary meaning more money. More money meaning more demand. More demand meaning more price, which means higher inflation. This cycle happens, yes or no? Does this kind of a cycle, is this possible? The cycle is possible, huh? Yes. So this kind of a spiral, which is built within the system. This is within the system, right? Inflation increases, we want more money. This is already built in the system, and this is a spiral. So you call this as built-in inflation, which is already inbuilt within the system. It is already there. Inflation rises, you want more money, more demand, more inflation. It continues, it acts as a feedback loop. So this is called as built-in inflation or wage spiral inflation. Right? This is all about built-in inflation or wage spiral inflation. We discussed in detail about all the types: demand pull, cost push, built in. We discussed about these things in pretty detail. Now the whole question is, there is one more, there is a final three definitions that are there. How inflation would increase? There are various paces. For example, let us say in 2024 it is 100, 2025 it is 105, 2026 it is 108. This is one way. The other way 100, 120, 140. The other way 100, 170, 500. So these are various kinds of rates at which it can increase. It can increase slower, faster, much faster. So we have names. If it is slow, moderate, fast, galloping, extremely fast, it is hyperinflation. If it is extremely fast, you call it as hyperinflation. These names are asked. Galloping, hyper, they are asked. Now can you give me any one example of a real-time incident where there was hyperinflation? Do you know any incident where there was hyperinflation that happened? Can someone come up? Zimbabwe, Sri Lanka. Nice, Harshvardhan. You're coming up with very good answers. No, gold is not hyperinflation yet. Gold could be galloping. Gold is not hyper. To have a hyperinflation, there should be a complete systemic wrong that happened. Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Sri Lanka, where governments, in Venezuela, in fact, government went on to print money, right? Yes. Good. Nice. So these are various types of inflations. The opposite of inflation is deflation. Inflation, you are increasing prices. The opposite is deflation. The opposite is deflation. Then this definition is important. They can ask you, what is a disinflation? Disinflation. Disinflation is where inflation reduces. Inflation reduces, but prices will increase. Prices keeps on increasing even if inflation comes down. This is called as a disinflation or disflation. So disinflation, this is important. They will ask you this definition. Inflation comes down, but prices keep on increasing for some other reason probably. The reason is not known, the number comes down, but still prices keep on increasing. This is called as disinflation. Right? So inflation. Now the most interesting thing is stagflation. Before I talk about stagflation, let us come back to my earlier question. Is inflation good or bad? My answer is, see, in 2024, there was something which was 100. 2025, this became 105. 2026, this became 111. 2027, 120. This is good for economy. Because, let's say I am the producer. In 2024, I am selling it for 100. If I have to sell it for same 100 rupees in 2027, I will not have the motivation to manufacture. It's not just that. Slight increase of prices will allow me to get more profit. Then I can employ more people. I can increase the output that I have to do. We can do all these things. So certain amount of inflation is always good. And when this kind of inflation is there, usually when this kind of inflation is there, then unemployment reduces in the economy. When there is moderate amount of inflation that is going on in any economy, people tend to get more profit. Because of more profit, people will employ more. Employees or companies, organizations will employ more number of people. So usually unemployment reduces when there is certain slight amount of inflation. Is this clear? Is this clear as to why certain amount of inflation is always good? Yes. So if that is the scenario, there is a scenario called as stagflation. Stagflation is called as stagnation. Stagnation is a scenario where there is a high inflation, but there is unemployment. There is no growth. Ideally, if there is inflation, there should be certain amount of employment, right? See, disinflation happens in a very rare scenario. It is a theoretical thing. Real life examples are very minimal. Having real life examples of disinflation is very, very minimal. Usually it doesn't happen. It's a theory definition. Now coming to stagflation. Stagflation is where you have very high inflation, but there is high unemployment and there is no growth. Three things if you are combining, this leads to economic distress or stagnation in the economy. This is called as stagflation. What happened in Sri Lanka, what happened in Zimbabwe, when there is a hyperinflation, there is no value for money. There is hyperinflation, there is no value for money, so there is no employment, there is no growth that happens. This is called as stagflation scenario. Slowly, usually hyperinflations get advanced into stagflation. Yes, exactly. Right, so these are about types of inflations, and there are multiple reasons for inflation. One could be because people have money. One is people could have money, which we call it as, or which is called as monetary causes. Then it could be government that is responsible. Government tomorrow comes and says, we are coming up with a scheme called as universal basic income. I am coming up with universal basic income. For anybody and everybody, I am going to give 30,000 rupees per month without any doubt. Now, if everybody has 30,000 rupees a month without doing any kind of work, will it increase the demand of everyone? Anything and everything? Won't it increase the demand? It will, right? So that is physical causes. Supply side, for example, oil shocks. Tomorrow, Strait of Hormuz is completely closed. Then there is a supply shock for oil. So supply side increase. There could be n number of reasons. In the exam, they can ask you which of the following are possible reasons of inflations, etc. So in these kind of questions, go by examples. Think of example, think of common reason why it could have happened, and then you mark the answer. You will be able to do it correct. So this is the end of the topic of inflation. Now the question is very simple. Let's say the last part of inflation, this is very interesting part. Let's say you are there and in 2024 you gave me 5,000 rupees. Okay, you are lender, you gave me 5,000 rupees. I am borrower. What I did is, I came in 2026. I met you in 2026 and I told you, look, you gave me 5,000 in 2024. So I want to return your 5,000 rupees. I will return your 5,000 rupees karke. I came to you and I returned your 5,000 rupees. Tell me, who lost? Did you lose or did I lose? Who got profit in this transaction? Think of it and tell me. Who got profited in this transaction? 2024, I gave you you gave me 5,000 rupees. 2026, I came to your house and I told you, okay, I want to return your 5,000 rupees. Who got loss? Yes, borrower got profit. Very good. Lender lost and borrower got profit. Very good. So if there is inflation in the economy, borrowers will gain and lenders will lose. Usually lenders use and salary people lose. Fixed salary, let's say there is no DA in your salary. If there is no DA, you will definitely end up losing, right? So this is the impact. They can ask you this question in the exam. Because of inflation, borrower, will they win? Will they lose? Don't mug up. Simply come to this example. Think of this example. Think of this example and you are good to go, right? So this is all about inflation. We studied about types of inflation. What is inflation? Types of inflation. What are the factors behind inflation? And how do you measure inflation? We studied about all these things, right? The inflation topic, as Siddhi app is in iOS, you need to use an OR code called as ZBCKZY. This is the OR code. Download My Institute and use the OR code, you will get it. Right. Coming back to the topic that we are talking about, we spoke about inflation at length, at detail. But why are we talking about it? Why do we want to discuss about inflation? What is the problem? What is the problem? Why should we study about inflation? See, banks don't lose because the interest rate is always fixed with, the interest rate is always adjusted to inflation. So basically you have two types of interest rate. One is fixed interest rate, the other is floating interest rate. Banks follow floating interest rate. So every year the interest rate that they levy will always be adjusted according to inflation. Right. So we have to understand inflation because certain amount of inflation is good for the economy, heavy inflation is bad for the economy. Now for example, let us say in a country, there is inflation and inflation went to 56% or maybe let us say 60%. Who is responsible for this? Who will control it? Who can control it? Who is responsible for it? Who is responsible to control inflation? Central bank? Okay. RBI? RBI? Only RBI? Can't the government? Yes. So, there is RBI that does it and government also does it. If RBI is doing it, you call it as monetary policy. Because RBI has money. RBI is the bank has got money. So RBI, if the control is done by RBI, you call it as monetary policy. If the government is doing it, you call it as fiscal policy. You call it as fiscal policy. So in India especially, the monetary policy is controlled. The monetary policy or inflation targeting is primarily done by Reserve Bank of India under a policy called as monetary policy, and the committee, the body that does it, it is called as RBI's Monetary Policy Committee. The committee is called as our Monetary Policy Committee. We will talk about composition of the committee, don't worry. And the value at which we keep our inflation, our target is 4 plus or minus 2%. So we want it to be in a bandwidth of 2% to 6%. This is where we want to maintain, and in India inflation targeting is being done by RBI. Who is the governor of RBI, by the way? Why exact the price? Yes. Who is the governor of RBI? This is a band at which we want to maintain. No, not Khanna. Isn't it Malhotra? Yes, Sanjay Malhotra, yes. Not Khanna, no Khanna, not Khanna, it's Malhotra, right? So this is about inflation targeting in India. Now, earlier when we were talking, I told you certain amount of inflation is always good for the economy. See, usually what happens is, as inflation increases, unemployment starts coming down. Because inflation increase, if inflation increases, which means price increase, which means production of a company will increase production. So production will increase. When production increases, unemployment reduces because they employ more number of people. So ideally, inflation is inversely proportional to unemployment, and the line is called as Phillips curve. This is important. They will ask you what is Phillips curve, etc. in the exam. This is important. Why two controlling methods? Very good. I'll tell you. See, why do we need two controlling methods is because there are certain things. For example, government can also do some activities to change the inflation, to adjust the inflation. Government can do things to take money out of people or to send money to the people. So there is a role of government also. Right? This is clear? Phillips curve is clear, right? We need another 20 to 30 minutes to have our further discussion. So Phillips curve is clear? I'm still waiting for your response. Right. Now, before any further discussion, there is one more part that we have to discuss in this part, right? In the entire chapter of background to monetary policy, we need to understand, in a country, there is always a cycle. The cycle is called as usual business cycle. The usual business cycle goes like this. There is a growth period. There is growth period. So in this growth period, there is good production. Production of a country increases, unemployment reduces, but as growth increases over a period of time, inflation increases. Inflation slowly and steadily, inflation keeps on increasing. There is a growth period. But after a point, inflation becomes high, so people stop buying. People will stop buying. As people stop buying, demand reduces. Demand reduces. As demand reduces, the meaning is there is a down phase. And down phase continues. If the down phase continues over a period of time, this could lead to depression. And if there is a depression, then there is obviously a recovery phase. These are usual phases of a business. For any business, or for that matter for any economy, there is growth, there is a possibility of downfall. Continuous downfall leads to depression, then there is recovery. This is how an economy can grow. But the danger is you cannot let this happen. Beyond this point, if an economy goes beyond this point, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. Wherever we are here, we want to continue the growth goes like this and inflation keeps coming down. So this kind of management has to be done by RBI, because of which, or for that purpose, we have a policy. The policy is called as monetary policy. And by the way, this business cycle is given by Keynes. There is a phase where there is expansion, there is expansion, boom, then over a period of time, the demand starts to drop. There is a drop or recession phase. As a recession continues, it might fall down, it goes to depression, then there is a recovery phase. So what happens is, when this is called as business cycle. So in recovery phase, you have good demand, good employment, good investment, etc. In over a period of time, boom, you have very high growth. Country starts touching, let's say, 7% growth, 10% growth, 11% growth. Unemployment becomes very, very low. This over a period of time, after boom, there could be a recession. Then it might even lead to depression also. This cycle is called as business cycle. When this kind of business cycle goes on, there is an economist called as Keynes. There is an economist called as John Maynard Keynes. What Keynes says is, look, your economy of the country is growing like this. There is a growth phase and there is a fall phase. What Keynes says is, when there is a fall, at this point, government should involve. Government should come in and it should do everything that it can. It should stand as a pillar and it should do everything that it can to rise, to lift. Now you tell me, when there is a fall in demand, what can government do? Think and tell me, what can a government do when there is a rise in demand? Are you guys with me in the first place? Like, is this going above your head or are we still good? GST 2.0, nice. Exports, okay. Government can say, I am reducing taxes. Yes, 2.0 is very good. I am reducing taxes, can I say? Can I say I will give you subsidies? You produce more. Yes. So basically, government can give a stimulus. Government can give a stimulus. Government can give subsidies. Government can spend more money. Government can, decreasing prices is very bad. You can't abruptly say, I'm decreasing the prices. No, any economy, that's a bad signal for the economy. Then your economy will further fall down. Any economy expects certain clarity, right? So, you should not go for price reduction outrightly. You can go for subsidies. You can reduce taxes. government can do all these sorts of stimulus. So this was actually given by Keynes. So we call these as Keynesian tools. So Keynes is a person who says government role is important. Government should enter and a government should push the overall demand. Government should push the overall demand. This is said by Keynes, and this is called as Keynesian tools of economic recovery. First thing that he says is increase government spending. Government start building roads. You build roads. If you are building roads, you are giving money to a contractor. You are buying equipment. You are employing people. So that way you are pushing money into the system. So when people have money, automatically demand will rise. So the growth curve that started to fall will start increasing again. The first thing is government spending. You call this as fiscal stimulus. Next thing, next tool that he says is you go for public works programs. Right? The same thing again, Narega scheme or VBG Ramsey, all these schemes, etc. So this is how Keynes says you have to handle the business recovery cycle. So till now, please tell me, this is done. Right, this is all about Keynesian economics. Keynesian economics focuses completely on government spending. That is a keyword that is there. Government spending, Keynesian economics, this they can ask you in the exam. In fact, they have asked in 2025. They asked what is the principle of Keynes economics or what does Keynes believe in, etc. All these things were asked in the exams. So now before we proceed any further, before I go here, tell me, are you guys clear about what is inflation? What is a business cycle? Types of inflation? Measurement of inflation? Let me write on the board. Right. The first thing is inflation. You need to understand what, why, how it happens, reasons, factors, right? Then you also need to understand how do you measure it and the link of inflation, unemployment, then about business cycles. Whatever I wrote on the board, is this clear, dear? Whatever I wrote on the board, is this clear? Laffer curve is completely different. Who's that? Aditya. Laffer curve is completely different. Laffer curve says, Laffer curve talks about, see, for example, what Laffer curve says is, if you keep optimal tax rate, government will get more revenue. If you increase the tax rate, government will not get any revenue. That is called Laffer curve. Laffer curve talks about taxation. These parts are clear. Now, shall we pause it here so that you can revise today, and tomorrow we will pick up monetary policy tools and continue with monetary policy tools? Shall we pick up monetary policy tools tomorrow? What is monetary policy tool? How do they work? What is monetary policy committee? Shall we do these things tomorrow? You will revise all these fundamentals today, right? Good. So 1 hour is enough. You can revise these things tomorrow. Tomorrow we will talk about what is monetary policy. I'll write it here itself. So in tomorrow's class we will talk about money, types of money, where we will talk about what is fiat money, what is legal tender. Then we will talk about monetary policy, where I will talk about tools and working, and we will also talk about monetary policy committee, compositions. We will talk about these things tomorrow, and we will complete monetary policy tomorrow, so that on I guess the next class would be on Thursday. On Thursday we will talk about banking and banking reforms, so that on Friday we will conclude this week with 5-year plans, right? So thank you so much for being so patient. If you have any doubts or if you want to talk anything, I'm here. Discussion for today is completed. If you have anything to share or if you have anything to discuss, I'm here. By the way, in GS 1.0, I've posted your polity class today. the first class where we spoke about what is constitutionalism, etc. Please complete it. Here onwards, please don't have any backlogs. Even if you have not studied GS till today, you have a lot of backlogs. It's okay. It is my responsibility to ensure that it is done. But from now, please don't take any kind of breaks, okay? So please do mention if Fatman is a good resource or not. See, prima facie the book is fine, but I mean, after 2025 there are certain topics where there are a lot of questions, and the book was published before 2025. So I would suggest you take a call based on that. Thank you. See, there is an introduction to national income class on Friday. When is it resumed? The topic of measuring national income, all the measurements we will do it at the end, because that is one topic which is more of technical in nature. There are a lot of formulae involved, and you might even get bored up if I discuss it in the initial days. So I want to complete all the interesting part of economy. At the last, we will take up national income accounting. The 2025 arithmetic PYQ is a work under progress. It will be completed. It will be posted. I didn't get your question. Chanakya, what? I didn't get your RRB NTPC. What is the question? Any other things that you want to discuss? Or shall we call it a day? From which source? At this moment, I really don't have the answer on computer source, but give me some time. We will work on it and I'll come up with the answer. But anyways, you have good amount of time for computers, right? For CGL 2026, there is a lot of time. So does PYQs reliable for RRB and TPC? Yes, they're absolutely reliable. You can go for TCS pattern CGL PYQs when you are preparing for RRB. Those PYQs are good. They're much better and much reliable. So please go for TCS PYQs for RRB and TPC. TCS CGL PYQs for RRB and TPC GS. In laptop, the app font is very small. Please make it normal. I do not understand what it is. If you can explain it better, yes. Aditya, no offline classes at this moment. I'm not yet so strong enough to plan any offline. No offline at this moment. Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe Naman. We'll meet tomorrow. See you all tomorrow again, where we will discuss monetary policy and we will conclude monetary policy tomorrow. And then we will have to talk about banking. Don't miss banking reforms class. I'll tell you interesting stories about banking reforms and how banking sector evolved in India. If there is someone who is preparing for bank exams also, that class would be very useful for you. Right. Thank you. Will you provide complete compilation of modern history? Yes, the compilation of modern history notes will be posted. The first part of modern history, we are modifying the notes. We wanted to improve the notes. So once it is improved, you will be given a full compilation. And once the compilation is ready, I will add it under revision targets also. PYQs of microeconomics will be posted in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Next 10 to 15 minutes, the document will be posted on Telegram. Should that be heard? I didn't understand, Susan. I didn't get your question. What about science topics? Are you talking about Akshay sir's classes of science? Thank you, Naman. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right. Will you provide modern history? Yes, it will be done. Revision from... See, at this moment, study polity. For modern history, we are upgrading and improvising the notes. Once the improvised notes is ready, I will include them as a part of your revision targets. Don't worry. If necessary, I'll do one marathon class of modern history where we will discuss everything that is... We will revise majority of the things, after which we will start, based on the need we will do. Right. Thank you. Chale, let's meet tomorrow. Bye-bye. Good night.